Tonight on the Venomous Fringe.
At 15 years old, I had a encounter in the Appalachian Mountains with a very large upright walking canine. 15 or 16, I found out that other people had seen him because I thought it was a werewolf. I've been bluff charged down here, and like the first thing that hit my mind wasn't dogman. It still shocks me to look at it. It's my picture. Like I don't know what that is. Claw on it.
That's the point. Yeah, that's a claw. You could see that's wild.
This came from where I got bluff charged at.
Our world is filled with darkness that nobody can explain. In what we face, we also encounter the work of evil. Join us tonight as we dive into subject matter of something wicked and macabre that inflicts our modern world. You're listening to the Venomous Fringe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show right now, I am with the one and only Paul Chafin. And Paul and I have a very good history. We basically started talking very early on in the dogman craze back in the mid-2010s, and ever since then we've become very good connections, and as well as also too off and on me and Paul check in, and following up with that tonight, I'm very glad to bring on one of my fellow researchers into this program. Paul, how you doing tonight, bud?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
I can't complain. You know, it's one of those time of year, man. It's winter time. We're all freezing ourselves out, doing what we could, but we're also trying to make bread at the same time. And also on top of that, find some discovery when it comes to cryptozoology. Hey, I can't ask for anything better. How you been holding up ever since, we last spoke? I know the last time we actually did an interview was like about 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago, wasn't it? I've been doing good, man. I just work every day, and I ain't been doing much. It's too cold down here. It's been really cold, and we've got a lot of bad weather down here, so I ain't been able to go out and do anything really. I work and come home and poodle around the house and wait for spring, man.
I can't wait for spring either, man. It's going to be nice. I know by me, our groundhog didn't see a shadow, so we're kind of bound up to see how bad the East Coast is going to get hit up the next 6 to 7 weeks left going into our one and only spring. Not a big spring guy, though, I'll tell you what. Summer and I like spring towards the end. But I'm more of into the fall kind of weather too. Fall is my kind of go approach. That's where everybody starts going away to sleep, though. So if you know what I mean, you know what I mean.
Spring down here it's really rainy and stuff, but I mean it's all right. I mean for me personally, like right now, I've got the advantage when I go out in the woods. You know what I'm saying? But around the end of spring and summertime, like I lose the advantage. Like these things can come right up on top of you down here and you can't see them. So. I mean, it gets sketchy, but yeah, I would rather go out then than now anyway. I don't like the cold. I'm too skinny for the cold.
I don't like the cold because I just don't like being cold. And I totally get that. I get that completely. Paul, if you could just remind the audience, because for a lot of people who've tuning into the show now, they weren't here present years ago when we were doing it. And, it's always good to have a refresher, like a little icebreaker. So can you just give the audience a little history on yourself, a little bit about what brought you into the world of cryptozoology and beyond?
Well, I'm from, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. I'm from Eastern Kentucky, from, Pike County, I guess. It's right on the border of West Virginia. So, yeah, I grew up. I'm from up in a holler. That's up in a holler. You got to go. Where I'm from, you got to go over to the mountains to get to town. And I've worked in the coal mines for years. But yeah, at 15 years old, I had a encounter in the Appalachian Mountains with a very large upright walking canine, and it changed my life. Probably it's been for the worst and it's been for the better, and it's kind of been back and forth. But I ended up falling in with some people like Kurt Stokes, and I've got to meet some good researchers, and I've just been researching for a while. I stay out in the woods a lot, and and if the internet crashed tomorrow and never worked again, you just know that's where I'd be, is out in the woods doing exactly what I'm doing now. So. I've got a lot of answers, and I've also came back out of the woods with a lot more questions. So, I mean, it's very, I don't know how to put it, man. It's just ongoing. It's a circle, I believe. But yeah, that's what happened. I had an encounter at 15 years old with a very large dogman, and it changed my life. It's lived in my head rent free for, 1997. So, and then in around 2015 or 16, I found out that other people had seen him because I thought it was a werewolf. Of course, I guess most people would, but I had never heard the term dogman. So, I thought one of my neighbors, somebody's a werewolf. I told my dad and a couple people about it after it happened that day. I was deer hunting, fell asleep, and I woke up and realized it was, going to be dark because it gets, like in eastern Kentucky, the sun don't come up till like 10 o'clock and it goes down at 3, and it gets dark at about 5 o'clock, in around November. And I woke up around 3:30, and I knew that I didn't have enough time to get home. I didn't have a flashlight. All I had was an old 12 gauge. I was shooting 3-inch slugs, and I stood up and grabbed my stuff, and I took off like I was walking at a fast pace. I took about 15, 20 steps, and it felt like fear. Something like fear hit me, almost like somebody hit me. And I stopped, and then I started to realize that I heard no sound. It was dead silent. So I knew what that meant, but I still had never heard any silence like that. And I was coming down a ridge into a gap, and the dogman was coming from my right around the logging road. And it took me a minute to realize what I was looking at because it was so black. It was it's hard to describe. If we've never, I'd say people have never seen a black like that because I hadn't. But it almost like made it impossible to see the features. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it made it impossible to see the features. So it took me a while to put together what I was looking at. Not a while, but a second. And my mind, I guess your mind tries to run through what you know to put that in a category. Well, there was nothing. Well, then I noticed that it had an elbow, and then I seen a chest. Like, it was from a side profile that I was seeing this thing. And it wasn't in a hurry. It was walking just at a steady pace, and it never did look at me. And I still right now thank God for that. I hear some of the encounters, and I know it could have went a lot worse, but it never did look at me. It was probably about 40 yards from me, 40, 50 yards, and it walked right around that logging road, and it went through that gap because a predator won't walk on a ridge line. They won't let their silhouette be seen in the skyline, so they'll take those low gaps, and I'm assuming that's what it was doing. And it went right through and dropped down on all fours and went over the mountain. For some reason, I never did get the. I don't know why I even say that, but I never did get the feeling that thing was from that area. You know what I'm saying? Like it was weird, and it took me a minute to process what I just seen. And I went off that mountain after I come to my senses. My knees were shaking, man. Only way I can describe it is if you've ever walked up on a copperhead or a rattlesnake or something in the woods and you got too close before you seen it. Your legs shake, your knees get weak. That's how I felt. But I went off there, and when I was a kid, used to run down the mountain and grab trees and swing and stuff. But that's how I went off the hill. But when I got down, I told my dad and his friends about it, and they just laughed. They didn't really. So, and then I told my friend the next day, and he laughed. So I just got a bad taste in my mouth for talking about it. So I just stopped saying anything I probably didn't tell 2 people, after that. I was with my ex-wife for 10 years, and I don't know that I ever told her because I just know how her demeanor was, and it just went well. So, but yeah, man, that's what got me into this. And now I've been researching ever since for about real heavy for the last 3 or 4 years.
And prior to your experiences at a young age, did you ever have any belief system in thinking that anything like monsters, fairies, goblins, all these UFOs, paranormal, was any of that ever think would be real, or no?
Nope. I was very typical like everybody else, man. If somebody had said they seen an upright walking dog, a werewolf in the woods, I probably would have done what everybody else would do. You know what I'm saying? So I just never. I don't think I ever even had a reason to even think about it, to be honest with you. I think I had seen a Bigfoot book maybe in the library as a kid, but other than that, and I thought that was like everybody else, out in Northern California somewhere. But Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, man.
And even so, prior to your experiences, too, you know, the woods of Kentucky in general, or any kind of place, especially in the southern U.S., is always filled with a lot of mysterious phenomena. It's not just Bigfoots and dogmen. You got so many different array of activity, even paranormal related, even things supernatural related. But I can only imagine at a young age of being sparked by seeing a large canine hominid staring right at you, exploring the woods. And I'm sure it was life changing. I mean, that experience alone, did it change your ways of not only going about the forest and also survival, but it also changed your perception on life?
Oh, it changed my entire life, 100%. I probably 25-30% of my life was changed that day for, forever. Like, it'll never be the same. Even like I said, when my kids were born, it was there. It's just been there every day since, my dad's funeral. Everything that's happened in my life, that thing's been there. So, yeah, I didn't go back in the woods for a while, but eventually I started going back. And, you just have to, if you are going to go in the woods and hunt stuff, you're just going to have to deal with the fact stuff like that's out there. I don't know any other way to describe it. And now, I worked in the coal mines for years, so I made peace with death. I didn't have no choice. So, I go out there and poke my nose when I've been growled at doing this. I've been bluff charged. I've had all this on camera, so I've had all kinds of experiences doing this. And I stick my nose in these places. I expect it to happen. So, they come and look in our windows. I feel like it's only right that I go look in theirs.
And that also gets me to my next question is, so immediately after you had your experiences and following up with dogmen, how long did it take you before you started seeing a recurring trend where, hey, you were starting to have more experiences and you said, you know what, I want to just begin doing research? Where did that all start for you?
When I met Kurt Stokes, and then he took me down to the Daniel Boone National Forest and around Corbin, and just the feeling when I got out of the car down there was, there's the normal wildlife that you see is not down there. It's like I was telling you earlier, there's just I don't know how to explain it, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's tainted ground or what it is. The name of the place is Dog Slaughter Trail. So if that tells you anything, and there is a trail down there, but where we go ain't nowhere near that. But that's the area is. I don't know if Daniel Boone or somebody, I'm assuming, probably did have some kind of encounters down there around that area. But I don't know if witchcraft has taken place, but they said the Cherokee Indians would not stay in the Daniel Boone National Forest overnight. I've heard that from 2 or 3 different people. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a strange place. And I do believe personally that it is eat up with these creatures.
You mentioned Daniel Boone. I've often heard so many array of stories of Bigfoot sightings, even Pukwudgie sightings, as well as also, strangely enough, I've had those occurring circumstances of goat men, lizard men even. It depends on the locational region. Personally, I feel that some people, depending on what they've been seeing out there, compare it to other cryptids, but at the same time, too, there's always those stronghold beliefs that there could be more that beats the eye. You bring up Daniel Boone, right? And I wanted to ask you, I'm not going to make this the center focus of the show because I know that where your residency is, but I just want to bring it up out of curiosity. Have you ever explored Land Between the Lakes at all, or no?
I used to live in a place called Murray, like Callaway County. It's like literally right on the other side of the Land Between the Lakes.
Right.
And me and my dad used to go deer hunting, around in Land Between the Lakes and stuff. But at that time, I was only like 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and I had never heard of anything like that. So I've never been down there and researched. And the thing is like, there's a lot of people that want to go out at night and do all this night research and all that stuff. Like, I feel like that's for people who haven't had an encounter and need proof or need this or that. Personally, I know they exist, and I'm not going out there at night when I can't see. I can't even sit in the woods in a car with the window down at night. I can't sit on the riverbank and fish with my back to the tree line. It'll change your life. I'm not kidding. So many little things about my life is just different that little things that normal people wouldn't think about. But yeah, there's just certain things I don't. I go to pay lakes now. I don't fish in the river. And where I'm from, I'm known for killing big deer because I walk and hunt. I don't ride a four-wheeler like most people today ride their four-wheeler to their tree stand and hunt and then ride home. I walk and hunt. So, that's just how I hunted all my life. So, yeah, I've run into a lot of things in the woods. I've run into mountain lions, bears, bobcats, you name it, I've run into it.
Considering wild animals are often another big distinction between cryptozoology and zoological circumstance, considering that a lot of bobcats, a lot of wildcats, and in mountain lions have a lot of residency in the southern parts of the U.S., and how often it has been easily misidentified for a lot of people who claim to cite a certain creature. But at the end of the day, too, I'm not in their shoes. Even for you, I'm not there. I'm not present. I can't recognize that. I can only recognize what has been said over me secondhand. But have you ever came across anyone in any of your investigations in the woods at all who had either given you kind of like that suspicious vibe or that vibe like, hey, they know a little bit more about this place than I do, or they got something that they've seen just like me, and they're kind of more on the hostile side because they probably suspect other things? Or have you ever encountered anyone ominously, a little suspicious, mysterious of someone doing something where it's kind of like, hey, we know why you're here and whatnot, like whether it be game wardens or park rangers?
Yeah. A couple of incidents like that, actually. Like down there where I'm talking about in the Danny Boone, there's a horse trail that goes through there. And we came back from, we had been out in the woods there. We were out there a pretty good ways. And when we come back, we had come up across that horse trail, and there was a group of people on a horse out there. There was probably 4 or 5 horses, and people were on them. And they just stared at me, man. They stared at us and just, I understand it, you're out in the woods, so people are going to look at you, but they spent a lot of time watching us. You know what I'm saying? Like they watched us go all the way out. They weren't talking to each other. They were just watching us. From the time I spotted them, they were looking at us until the time we got outside. They watched us go. Now, there's another woman close by here. Her name is Renee Wilson. She's also does research here and there.
I know Renee, yeah.
She came and met me, and we went and researched down here on the Kentucky River around this old rural boat ramp, which I had some encounters down there. I got growled out on video down there. But yeah, she went down there, and when we come back out, there was an old Chevy truck sitting there, and the only way to explain it is the parking lot. It's a big river bottom. Okay, well, in the middle of it is a parking lot. It's like probably 50 yards by 30 yards big. It's an old boat ramp. And on each side of it when you walk out there in the summertime, it looks like it's got a really thick canopy over it. Looks like a jungle. And it's sand. So we come out of there and we walked across the parking lot. We was going to go on to the other side because there's old four-wheeler trails down there where people go down and have fun and party and drink and swim and do stuff. So that truck was parked over on the other side. And as I walked by, and I'd been back in there 100 times, that guy hollered and said something. And I walked over to his passenger side and see what he wanted. And he was wearing a game warden uniform. And he said, "You can't go back in there." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Why?" He said, "The owner don't want nobody back in there." And to me, that was very odd. Like, what are you going to sit here and just watch the place all the time? I didn't know what was going on. And I said something to him. I was like, but there was a little small talk there, but he didn't. I said something about there being things down here. And he's like, he said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "No, I said things." He said, "Yeah, I know." So we walked off, and about the time we got to the cars, 2 more game wardens pulled in. And they just sat there in the truck, and they had the big aviator glasses on, and they just sat there and stared at me, literally stared at me until I got in my car and we left. And as I left out of the parking lot, they were still staring at me. So something was going on down there. I don't know what happened. I never seen them. I never seen a game warden in this town ever, but I had never seen them down there ever either. But I ain't seen them since either. So I don't know what was going on down there. I don't know why that guy was sitting there, but something was going on. I don't know I don't know that it had anything to do with me, but I think they knew why I was there.
That's going to lead into my next question. I don't have aluminum foil or anything by me, and I know you don't either. but I wanted to also be on the same page and say, when it comes to our little conspiracy discussion, right? You often think that a lot of the time, a lot of these individuals who work in the environmental science industry, as well as also for those who are wardens and anybody to do with the ecosystem, that they have a good idea on what they're seeing and what people are seeing out there. But because of certain restrictions and obligations that they have to follow through their code, they can't say anything.
Right. I agree. I mean, and they may say something to you, talk to you, as long as you ain't got a camera in your hand, but they're not going to talk to you on the record.
Have you ever been threatened before, ever working in this kind of environment?
No, I have had somebody we both know high up who has a really well-known YouTube channel called me and said, Paul, he said, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but there's a line you can't cross with these pictures and stuff. I was like, what do you mean? He said, there's just a line you can't cross. He said, if you cross it, he said, somebody will show up at your door. He said, and they'll take you to a podium and they'll have you tell everybody that it was a hoax. He said, and if you don't, it would be a real shame if people found that kitty porn on your computer and your laptop. I was like, well, okay. I mean, what do you do with that information?
The old CP discussion, right? And honestly, that's been a bigger tactic now than putting one in the back of the cranium. Back in the day, at least, right? You know, that was the other big debate. And it's interesting. A lot of people might think that, you know, Paul might be exaggerating about that, but I'm going to be extremely honest with you. There's a reason why a lot of people go dark when they come up to a big discovery or something that's completely found. Just look at logic from back in the 20th century when people were creating certain things, and when the cure for cancer was found at one point, and then ultimately look how quiet that discussion went out. You understand, you got to kind of play ins and outs and play a little dumb when it comes to these kind of works. For all those enthusiasts out there, just take notes, because I'm telling you right now, this is the kind of thing that a lot of people tend to forget. But let me just ask you a real question. For those out there who actually believe in that system, and I know there's a lot of people do on social media, what would be your overall advice or thesis to them? What would you tell them straight up, especially as you are a researcher who takes it very serious?
Well, I mean, to me, it's just, I don't have anything against, you know, the way I see it, there's people who want answers and there's people who want to be entertained, and they're
Right.
just they're all mixed together. And I've learned a long time ago that you can't mix the dogman community with the Bigfoot community and, you know, the UFO community. Nobody cares what the other one's doing, and then everybody's just a smart aleck, and like they got negative comments to say, and it just really. It drives the cryptid community and the research out into the weeds, and it just doesn't go anywhere, which is where it is now. But I don't know. I think if you want to be entertained, they just join these research groups, and then they're upset and they're disappointed because they're not being entertained, and then they start commenting. And the only way I can explain it is, it's like this, like me, for example. People do this. I have to stay busy doing something like this thing. I mean, it has a real effect on you. Like running into one of these creatures in the woods. I think it's really underestimated. People don't know, but it can change your life for the worst. You know what I'm saying? So people do this for different reasons. You know, if somebody's out there doing research and they post a picture, you know, and then some dude gets on there and says something smart, you know, he's being smart. You never know why this person's doing that, you know, like they may go back and like stop doing this and overdose. You know what I'm saying? So you just never know why people are doing what they're doing. So, and that guy, his next picture might be the one, you know, it might be something I really want to see as a researcher. And then he just quit. So I just think it does a real, I just wish people would like stay on Pinterest. If you want to be entertained, you know what I'm saying? Just, there's groups for that. There's all kinds of groups on Facebook. You know that, where you can do that stuff. People post pictures of werewolves and stuff and sit around and talk about Patterson footage. And there's just a place to do that, and there's a place not to. But I like my group. I don't let nobody post nothing about Bigfoot, nothing about UFOs. It's a dogman group. So that's the content that comes into it.
I totally understand that perspective. And again, you know, like without ill-fating anybody, because at the end of the day, you know, people are very sensitive. People, God forbid, you state your opinion on, you know, the obvious of opinion, they're going to still come at you, because that's just how our society's built.
Let me say, I don't have anything against any of the Bigfoot community. All these people, I don't have anything against them. I'm just saying, like, I'm not worried about what they're doing, and they're not worried about what I'm doing. So, but that people join these groups with the idea that they're going to come in and they're going to see a picture of a werewolf with big muscles and red eyes and stuff. So, and then when they don't see that, they get kind of aggravated, and then it starts a bunch of problems in a group. A bunch of people get upset, and well, you know what I'm talking about. So
I 100% do, bud. Yes, I do. Just a couple more questions, service related, before we go into some of the evidence and discussion about that. When it comes to the dogman and Bigfoot topics, very good breakthroughs at all, and you think in the last 5 years, or do you feel like we're still at a square where we're very low in the barrel of understanding it, and we haven't even come to any of the answers? What do you think?
I think that some people have got the proof that we're all looking for. And I think the discussion goes right back to the one we just had before the one, like, you know what I'm saying, about the podium and all that stuff and people showing up at your door. I talked to a guy who had got a trail camera photo, like he had one of the trail cameras where it sends it to your email. And he had gotten a trail camera photo and it sent it to his phone. And this was in the evening. And it was a picture of a dogman. And the next morning he woke up, it was gone off his phone. So, and the same person that called me and told me about not crossing the line told me that somebody he knew and that had contacted him had put up a trail camera and a dogman had walked right out in front of it. I don't know if it knew it was there. I don't know. He said it looked to be a young one. He said, but it was standing up. And he said had its back to the camera. He said it was turning around and it was, it was eating and doing whatever was there, right on camera. And he said that the footage went up on YouTube, and then eventually it went to where you had behind a paywall, and then after that it was gone. And this all happened in about a week. He said right now you can't find it anywhere. So, and he said he didn't talk to that guy anymore. So I don't know. I just think that if you do all this and you get what you're out there looking for, just be very careful what you do with it.
That's actually a very good statement. And plus also, like I always tell everybody, you don't want to go out into these woods and think you're all macho and think that you have a purpose here that's going to be all big and goss, because it's going to come back right back at you in the face, and you're going to end up looking at life a lot different. Like you had even said yourself, your life changed completely, even though that you're morally a respectful individual, in my opinion, because of our history and plus also how you go about your research and presentation. I really find a lot of people to be kind of in the subjective view of thinking that everything's all bells and whistles when it comes to research, especially when I have most of that base of people wanting to look at stories versus actual research. I have a bit of a thesis on this one myself, but are you all for, in the event, if you were to be put yourself on the line between a Bigfoot, a dogman, would you be of pro-kill or anti-kill?
I wouldn't. I don't go out with the intent. I never go unarmed, ever. But I would, and I carry a gun that, look, let me show you something. You see that? That's a slug I pulled out of a buck I killed this year.
Oh, wow. Oh, look at that.
So, yeah, that's what that is. That's a 3-inch slug mag I killed an 8-1 this year.
That's like a ring you put on your finger.
No, listen, I've been bluff charged down here. Like, there's a little preserve down here called the Jim Beam Nature Preserve. And I was checking my trail cameras. I try not to go out alone, but I went out alone that day, and I checked my trail camera, and there's a little field there. It ain't that big, but and it had that yellow grass in it. You know how it looks like? I don't know if you've ever been out and seen it, but it looks like something has been bedding down in it. I don't think that's what it is. It just looks that way. But it had like spotted trees throughout it, and I got bluff charged, like something. I heard a very large dog bark, and like the first thing that hit my mind wasn't dogman. Like I thought maybe somebody was down in there with their domestic dog, and all I could picture was like what that slug mag would do to somebody's domestic dog, and I didn't want to have to explain that. So I turned around and looked, because this dog was coming at me. I could hear it, like it was getting louder as it barked, and it was coming quick. And I turned around, I was looking at the trees. I was trying to find a tree. And there's a little tree behind me. It was a small one, and it had big thorns, and I mean big ones, like that long on it. And it wasn't on the tree; it was on a vine around the tree. And I grabbed that, and I ended up getting the big thorns in my hand. I still got scars, and they went in my head. And I couldn't get up that tree, and this thing was coming fast, man. So I just finally spun around with that shotgun, and I threw the gun up, and I was waiting for it to break the tree line, and I was going to blow its head off. And it stopped right at the tree line and never made another sound. But I mean, that was terrifying. That was scarier than my first encounter that I ever had with one. But I mean, because you think you know what you're going to do when you run into one, but let one show up and you'll see.
One thing I wanted to ask you too was that would you consider a Bigfoot or dogman, would you consider them more dangerous than normal zoological animals like mountain lions or bears? Or would you feel like there's like a difference of that matter and you think maybe more or less that cryptids are more or less dangerous, but when provoked, they could easily be dangerous, would you say?
I think they're very diverse. I think it depends on what kind of mood they're in when you run into them. It depends on what happened to them that day or that week or whatever. But I think I know for a fact they will give you a warning. And if you keep pushing, then you'll end up running through the small intestine one, or David Pilates on it talking about you. You know, they will warn you. They will give you some kind of warning. I've had it happen too many times. So, and their warnings are very. Some of them that like that one growled at me, and it was close, and I couldn't see it, and I don't know why I couldn't see it, but it was very close to me, and when it growled, man, it was very loud. It was crazy, and I think I snuck up on it because it was all sand out there, and I was recording when I walked out there, and I had somebody with me, and I had seen something on camera. I was only recording about 35 seconds, and I seen something because there's a creek right there, and it's like 15 feet down to the creek. And whatever it was had to be standing on the bank, and I could see the top of its head. And I told the guy with me, I said, "Come here." I said it real quiet, and he took about 2 or 3 steps toward me when he did. That thing growled from my right, and it freaked him out, and it freaked me out too. Which neither one of us ran, but I pulled my firearm and backed up. I took about 30 steps backwards, and we just stood there. And whatever it was walking back and forth, stomping and breaking stuff and blowing. I don't know if you've ever heard a deer blow before when you walk up on one.
Not the cocaine deer blow, right? The actual deer.
Well, I mean, it's just it'll do that.
I know exactly what you mean. Yes, I do.
Walking back and forth, and it was breaking stuff. Like it was very mad that we were there, and you could where it was kind of a little bit further away than the growl, so you couldn't hear it on camera. But yeah, it was it was mad that we were there. I think I scared it or walked up on. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure they know my car by now. So I know I drive a Mustang GT, so they hear me pull in. So yeah, they know I'm there. And I've noticed that if you go down there and there's a bunch of people down there and there's kids playing, I used to not like that, but then I realized that that's when I got some of the best footage. Was when there was people down there and there was noise going on. And if you find an area like that in a rural place and you go down there and you set up and you watch the tree line that's watching those people, I guarantee you will get these things on camera. They will come in and watch.
Another thing is too, and this is kind of, not to sound silly, even if I made it think about the deer, I want to ask you something here because I've had this comment come up before about what people might think about it. And I figured I'd ask somebody who is of research as well, who might have a better answer for me on this one. Someone brought up once about what we could do, how a dog reacts to a dog whistle, especially when one is being pulled in person and blown upon. And what would you say would a dog man, would one of these whistles work on one of them? And it's not to be humorous, it's actually a legitimate question, because if they do have some sort of canine attributes in them, could they also react the same way as a normal dog would when they hear a kind of sensory like that?
I think they could probably hear it, but no, I don't think they would react the same.
Based upon their genes.
I think they have a really high intelligence. A lot. I think they're more intelligent than we give them credit for, even though people know they're smart, but I think they're even smarter than that. I think they would hear it. I just don't think they would pay any attention to it and I could be wrong, but I just don't. And as far as Bigfoot goes, that's like researching whether my car's in the driveway. I just don't. I know Bigfoot's real. I don't know. To me, it's a waste of time to research it, but for me, it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it's out there. Like, there's a lot of evidence of that. There's just not much evidence of dogman.
We're talking about evidence, and evidence, I feel, while most people enjoy the conversation of evidence, I always tend to also want to hear what the researchers who collect the evidence have to say about. So, Paul, right now we're looking at a very interesting image here. We have what appears to be some sort of figure that was shot. Give us a little bit of a background here. What are we looking at here?
All right, man. I was before I had the job I have now, I was an Amazon delivery driver. Okay, well, it took me into a lot of rural areas, and I was in, I think this was in Shelbyville, Kentucky, and very rural area, way back in there, very nice neighborhood, but it was very, very rural, like lots of woods, long winding roads and stuff. And I would stop periodically when I could pull off into some places, and I would walk around, look around for stuff, tracks and stuff. And sometimes I would hear things, and I know what to look for. I know, I can tell when I'm in the area of something. Like if there's cryptids in the area, I can usually tell. Like, they leave signs and stuff. I can tell if there's deer in the area. But yeah, I was just recording footage, man, and I could hear stuff back in there. That's why I was recording, but I wasn't expecting that. And to be honest with you, you could probably guess what that is. I don't know. That's I don't know what that is. It's terrifying, if you ask me. I don't know, man.
You got like a face on it. It looks like a face. Kind of looks like one of those polished faces that you find in like like one of the in Europe. Oh, like I tell everybody else, if you could see something, or if you could see something but you can't make it out, or at least come to make it out, you still see something. And at least in this matter, you know that there's something out there. And in my case,
this is the one picture that I've actually never had any problem. Nobody's ever had any trouble with this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's been able to see that. Like, this picture, when I first posted it, I think it probably changed a lot of people's opinions and the way they looked at the research and what was possible. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, I do.
Well, like, like there's the woo factor, and then there's the flesh and blood. So that kind of like crossed the line on both of them, I guess. And like, I don't know. It definitely surprised me. It still shocks me to look at it. It's my picture. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it is hard to look at and make out, right? I can't say 100% certainty what it could be, but it definitely is something of interest. All right, let me go ahead and pull up the next photograph, because this one's a little bit more around the alley. Looks like we got something interesting of interest here. I have something here that really, it sparks my interest, because I believe that what you got here is a dogman. Now, I personally, I can see the pointy ears. I see that canine looking structure, that face, that snout. What do you think? I mean, what do we got here? I think it looks like a dogman.
Oh yeah, this was in the Daniel Boone National Forest. We had a lot of encounters that day, and it's very rare that you like, you got to do a lot of recording over your shoulder and stuff. Like, wear your hat backwards. These things are smart. They're not dumb. You know what I'm saying? They know to look for the bill of your hat, what way it's facing. Like, they just know. So, let me give you an example. Like, the track cast I have, right? I stopped and went into an area where there was I don't even know how to explain it. Like, there's like kind of rolling hills, like little tiny hills, and there's valleys in each one. And if you walk up those valleys, there's an overhang, and that overhang runs like right level with the ground over to the next valley. So I walked underneath there to look for tracks, and I mean, just some massive tracks, man. 100%, no doubt, they were frequenting the area. So I got the stuff out, casted the track, never seen another track there again. And I've went there every time I go down there. I go there and check, and I've never seen another track there. There was a lot of them.
I was going to ask you, how close were you? Because it's pretty close image when it looks.
Yeah, no, that was I'd say probably 30 yards, 40 yards, and I had just walked right by there. But you can smell. They got a smell too. Like, they don't always stink like you hear people say. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of them do. You can smell like that stench, rotted garbage and flesh or whatever. But some of them smell like a wet deer or something. Like a wet dog smell. Even if they're not wet, that's what they smell like. But yeah, that's what I could tell. I just didn't know where it was exactly, but I knew it was there. So I was recording over my shoulder as I walked out of that area right there, and sure enough, it was standing right behind us watching us.
In the event, have you ever felt once in your times you've kind of gotten like, I know you said you got bluff charge at one point, but have you ever like seen like a family of them, or like a large group of them?
I had a friend that me and you were talking about earlier, right? Yeah, but he told me that he was He was in the Mammoth Cave, down in the Mammoth Cave there. You know where Mammoth Cave is? You heard of it?
I've heard of the cave, yes.
Yes. Well, he was down there, him and one of his friends, and he said he ran up, and he said there was a whole family of dogman down in this little gully, like, and he said he recorded them. He said they acted like they didn't even care. And he said on the way out, they had stopped at a little picnic area and was eating and stuff and talking. And he said 2 SUVs pulled in. And he said the guys got out, and he said they were wearing fatigues and, like, you know, not camouflage, but black, and they had the guns and stuff. And he said they walked up and was just casual, you know. He's like, well, you got, you know, started the conversation. How you doing? You know, he's like, what are you recording? He said, nothing. He said, the hell you are. He said, what are you recording? He said they took his SD card and told him not to come back. I mean, they said some other stuff, but I'm not going to say it. But.
I'm sure I know, and if you know, you know, as they always say, IYK, YK.
But how did they know? How did they know that he got that on? How'd they know?
I'd imagine if they analyzed the SD card, they probably discarded
but
it.
how did they know to come to him? How did they know that he got it to begin with?
They probably made their move right away when he was in a vulnerable spot. And after that, that was probably what became of that. It's coincidental how they just roll up like that. But at the same time, too, I only feel that kind of circumstance happens when they're being observed for quite a period of time. And granted, he may not have noticed anyone around him, but that's the beauty of that kind of practice is that they're designed
to be cameras in that area because they're known to be there or something. I don't know.
I'm sure there was. I mean, you know, a lot of private property places and even general, like a lot of deep forest areas, they do have those kind of cameras. It may not be designed, and a lot of people might like, because I've ran into other trail cams that have been put out there by other people, but how do I know that that's not like, you know, game warden people, or how do I know that it's not, you know, someone that works for
the game warden will hang them on the power line, try to catch you poaching and stuff.
No doubt. Yeah, they're very serious, and I don't blame them about the poaching part, but even in private property areas too, where you're going on those kind of lands and it's like it's all barred up and chained up for a reason. I had that same conversation with a gentleman who worked for the division one point in my state, and they even said to me, they said, we can't discuss certain things based on the implausible factor of them. But one thing we can say that we can agree on is that there's more in those woods than you'll ever think and imagine in your lifetime. And that
and when you're researching, like, you may not even pay attention to it, but it'll take you into areas that really nobody else goes into, even if you don't do it on purpose, like, because you're looking for, like, areas that people don't normally go into. So you end up going, you know, you end up getting yourself in trouble, you know what I'm saying, on accident. You don't even mean to do it. You're just taking the unbeaten path, I guess, or roads that normally don't get traveled. And yeah, I mean, that's, if you want to get pictures nobody has, you got to go into areas nobody goes. That's just how it is, you know, like. All
right, so this one right here. Now, see, this piece of evidence I like too, because you get a good visual proportion on that head. And it looks like a face to me. If a head, like an entire portion of, you got something there that many people be like, what is that? And I'm out of curiosity, I want to know your feedback on that. What do you take of that picture?
This is the same as the first picture. Like I was doing the same job in the same area, just in a different part of the town or different part of the county or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what tells me that something's there. Something tells me, though, like, I don't know what it is. I really don't. But I just know when to pull my camera out for some reason. And I marked this on my map, so I know exactly where that's at. This was just a single house. Like, these people lived back in there, and it was a long, long dirt road. And they had an owl. Like, you know how people do that welding art?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, they had one of them out. It was kind of like a little windmill looking thing, and it was cool looking. So I stopped there and was recording and stuff and looking at it. And once again, I heard something over in the weeds. So I stopped and was looking, and I could see the top of those weeds moving, but I couldn't see that. With my eyes, I couldn't see it. So I drove and went real slow, and I kind of just held the camera up and recorded, and there you go.
This one right here is a little bit more hard to make out. I feel I'll be honest with you. This is one of those pictures where you look at it, you double take it, you kind of observe it. You can't identify the proportions. You can't take a good look at what we're looking at, if it's a face, snout, or a body, what is like the precautionist factor here where you go into this and you like dive? Because when I took one look into that picture, I was completely taken aback. I was like, wait, I don't know what I'm looking at here.
The facial structure.
I see a structure, yes. I just the full structure of how it is made out. It feels like it's all over the place.
Well, just the picture though, the second before that kind of looked like a dog. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and I made a video. I got a group on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? So I made a video of this, and I ran through it from the dog face. It goes into something else, and then it goes into something else, and then it goes into this. And this is all in just a second, like 3 frames. So, I mean, like the research has just really taken me into an area that I'm just not comfortable in. But I'm not going to ignore it because that's not how I do things. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to, as much as it pains me, I'm going to investigate it, and wherever it goes, it goes. But yeah, this one here, and like I've got so many of these, man, like that. It's just, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to call it. I don't know where it's from. I don't know what causes that. But I found, and I can tell you this: anybody can do what I'm saying. You can do it tonight outside. Anybody can do this. I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, these phones are capable of capturing things that our eyes cannot see, that we're not meant to see. And I mean, like when the picture gets blurry, when you go to pan, if you go to pan, like it may not be blurry to you, like if you look at it at normal speed, but if you go back with your thumb and like go frame by frame, it'll get blurry. Okay, well, their face will show up really clear in that blur. It's very odd, very strange. I mean, it sounds crazy, I know, but I'm just telling you what I see. People can check it out for themselves and try. Also go out at nighttime. If there's a tree line, turn your flash on your camera and take pictures. Go back in and sit and analyze pictures, and I think you'll be shocked. I mean, and this is, like I said, it just took me in a direction that I wasn't prepared to go. And had I heard somebody talking like this 3 or 4 years ago, I would feel the same way everybody else does about it. It doesn't escape me how crazy it sounds. It really don't. I'm a critical thinker. I'm fairly smart. I just, I don't know what to say. I don't know if it's other dimensional. I don't know if they can cloak. I don't know what they're doing, but it's very strange. It is. It's, and I can show you, I don't know how many of these.
All in great time, brother. You know, you always share things with me, and I always appreciate you sharing. I'll always give you my honest feedback on them.
People want to click on the picture and just be able to see it. They don't want to have to use their eyeballs and focus and look and do all that stuff. But sometimes, you know, if these things were standing out in the open, there wouldn't be no need for research. You know what I'm saying? Like, and camera footage and pictures, this is really the only thing we got. They're not going to come out and like that growl I got, it growling at me on camera. To me personally, as a researcher, it might as well come out and waved at me. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it gave itself away on camera. So, yeah.
Makes you wonder. So I wanted to give you the floor on this because you actually got some stuff that you have. This is the other evidence. This was the castings, right? We talked about these castings. Can you just kind of give me a little rundown on the castings here? Where did you collect them from? And do the comparison, because your hand, man, you showed me a picture of the casting in your hand, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild casting, how big it is in comparison. So can you give us a little rundown on that?
You see it?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. Now this cast right here, remember I told you earlier that I went and found them under that underhang and that overhang, and I cast it and there was never no more?
That's right, yeah.
What I was getting at was something seen me do that, and they learned not to go back in that area. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they didn't. I've never seen another track there. But this is the one I got that day. There was some bigger than this, but they were kind of on a bank and I couldn't cast them. So this was the best one I could get. Yeah, I mean, this was a big one, and it's got a very long pinky, like the pinky on it's insane. But this one here comes from down where I got bluff charged at.
See the comparison too, man. Your hand, you put your hand out real quick, you put it out and you'll see, like, you look at that, you know, like, I mean, that's unless you have a Mastiff as a dog or you have a pet bear, then you're going to have a similar kind of draw line to it. But I wanted to also point out too, is look at the proportion of it. You see how, like, it doesn't even look like your normal bear or your normal dog print. It looks totally abnormal.
Well, a bear has 5 toes, so.
Well, that too, but I'm just saying, like, how abnormal the shape of this looks in comparison to, like, you know, your typical zoological creatures print.
I mean, look at that claw on it.
That's the point. Yeah, that's a claw. You could see that's wild.
This came from where I got bluff charged at. All right, this one here is to me, the feeling I get when I look at this cast right here is this to me, I think, was like a skinny dogman. I'm pretty sure that it was like I don't know how to explain it. Listen, any large animal that's on two legs, the pad has to support the weight. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to have a very large dogman and have a little pad on the back. It's going to have a large pad to support its weight. So, to me, this here was just a skinny dogman. I think it was, and you can tell its nails kind of curled here. Probably an older one, but yeah, this is the first one I ever found that I know for sure was a dogman. And then this one right here is the one that I showed you.
Yeah, that one right there. That's a big one. That's a puffy one.
Oh, that's the biggest track I've ever seen. I absolutely would not want to run into it. And like I said, I used to have a cast here of my dog. I've got a big husky, weighs about 75 pounds, and I cast in one of her tracks just for comparison. I don't know where it went to, but I mean, her track don't even cover the pad here. She's 75 pounds, so yeah, this was that's a massive animal right there. That's 500 pounds at least, I'd say. And this was on the Kentucky River. This come from the Kentucky River in Jessamine County, Kentucky, right here.
In relation to all the evidence that you collect, what is your sole purpose with it? I know, obviously, to showcase this research and hopefully encourage other people to think about doing the same in the right way for those who are of interest. But your goal with this and sharing it, what do you want to present to this field? What is your overall goal with this field and presentation-wise?
Well, when you try to talk about this to a few people and they laugh at you and you can't do nothing about it, I mean, you can laugh at me. What you can't do is explain why that dog track's that big. You know what I'm saying? So that's just, I've got a 14-year-old daughter who knows exactly, she knows what I do. She wants to go out, and I won't take her out there and do it, but because if she'd have been with me when I got bluff charged, I don't know what I'd have done. But I try to teach my kids. They know a lot about the outdoors. She deer hunts with me and stuff. I'm an outdoorsman. Like, I'm a man's man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a hillbilly. I've just been in the woods my whole life. I dig ginseng, I deer hunt, I squirrel hunt, I do everything. Anytime I leave all my problems at the tree line, and it's my idea of heaven being in the woods. So, but I know what's out there too. And like you said earlier, the Appalachian Mountains is a very, very, you got to be very aware when you go in the Appalachian Mountains. There's a lot of stuff that can kill you. Big
time. I want to ask you a couple questions in regard to kind of a little bit about where we can get some information from you, brother. Like you said, you have a social media group. How can we get in contact with you? And of course, following up with that, if anybody out there who is of curiosity wants to learn a bit more about the research aspect and want to get in hold of you, how can we go about that, brother?
I've got a group on Facebook called the Kentucky Dogman Project, and I've got a YouTube channel also named the same thing. So I post there at least a couple times a week, if not every day. So, and there's other people too. My group's different than everybody else's. I'm not in this to be famous. I'm not in this for money. I don't overlook like people treating other people with disrespect. So everybody in my group's cool. We don't very calm. People ask questions. We communicate. We talk. Like, like for example, if people can't see something, man, if you ask me, I'll help you. And if I'll apologize if you can't see it. But there's a lot of people out there very mean, man. You know what I'm saying? You know how the community is. People are mean. They're out to hurt your feelings, I guess.
Mean, mentally unstable, you know it. It's modern day society in a nutshell, and I'm not afraid to admit it either,
I put a lot of work in, man, for somebody to come on in my group and tell me that, oh, that sticks and leaves. No.
But that's what I'm referring to, are those kind of Debbie Downers right there, are the same people who want to try to put 15 minutes of their own misery onto you and think it's perfectly appropriate. That's not the case. You know, we come into this field for a very specific purpose, and it's to find answers. And if we can't find answers because of people who want to find better opportunity, dilly-dallying and being that toxic kind of person, then unfortunately that's just going to be one less part of the solution. And therefore, you always got to, like I always say, cover loose ends in many ways. My last question for you, my good sir, is simple. What would be your advice to anybody out there who's had an experience, and for those who want to learn more about it?
All I can tell you is just how I approach it, man. Like, there's a lot to it. Like, first thing you got to do is make peace with. You may not come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may not. Be aware of who you take in the woods with you and know who they are, because they can mean the difference between life and death. Never go unarmed. I don't care what anybody tells you. There's these tree huggers out there that want to tell you that these creatures are nice and they want to run in the flowers with you and stuff. No. Take a firearm. Take somebody with you that knows what they're doing. Never go alone. There's things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of things, man. You got to pay attention. It just depends on what you're going in the woods for, but just know that when you're out there, there's things watching you, whether you see them or not. They're there. I don't care where you go in the woods at. They're there. These things are everywhere. There's no doubt in my mind they're everywhere.
And I honestly think that's some great advice right there. And ladies and gentlemen, you guys heard it first and foremost here on the Venomous Fringe. Well, folks, like Paul has mentioned, you can go take a look at his YouTube channel, the Kentucky Dogman Project. I'll have that linked in the description down below, as well as also the Facebook group. Go ahead and drop yourself a join and follow. And of course, feel free to take a look and engage in the community conversation in regard to our topics of discussion of ominous mystery.